Thanks for joining us, Denisse. Let's just start with the important nutrition and formulation considerations. So what are we not talking about enough when it comes to GLP-1, especially when it's things like, moving beyond the usual focus on appetite suppression and weight loss?
Yeah, thanks for having me. What we're not talking about enough are the needs of the community that brands are formulating for and the purpose of the products for GLP-1 therapies for weight management. They really don't change the fundamentals of nutrition, but they do change the type of nutritional and lifestyle support that is needed in each stage of a weight loss journey. And just to give you an example, for example, quality protein, attention to fiber intake, things like hydration, nutrient dense, smaller portions, energy balance, glycemic impact, metabolic health, all these things were already central to successful weight management long before GLP-1 therapies entered the mainstream. And next to this, it is also well documented that, for example, GLP-1 therapies come with side effects, right? We know that there's altered taste sensations. For example, we know there's aversion to very sweet or very bitter. So the food industry is really dealing with a specific reality in each GLP-1 stage. And expert consensus statements that we're getting recently increasingly frame the GLP-1 therapy use as a sequence of stages. For example, we know about this new stage 0, for example, before starting a therapy. How do you prep the body before you go into GLP-1 therapy? So that's like the starting stage. Stage 1 is, for example, the first year of use and all the adjustments that come with a new therapy. And stage 2 and 3, which is the long-term maintenance phase, the first year while you're in a GLP-1 therapy. And when appropriate, stopping or transitioning off the therapy, or probably going into a maintenance dose. And then there's the final stage, which is the natural path. Alongside all these stages, there's a parallel path, which is the natural weight management journey for those who choose to manage weight without the medication and perhaps trigger GLP-1 in a natural way. So I see long-term success for brands will mean formulating in ways that support the nutritional needs of the weight-conscious community, whether they are on a GLP-1 therapy or not.
You've raised a lot of really interesting points. What people don't talk about an awful lot is that stage 0. So how can nutrition, specific ingredients, help prepare things like metabolic health before someone starts the GLP-1 therapy?
Sure, yeah, this stage 0 is new, and we know that before a GLP-1 therapy begins, nutrition already should play a critical role. So we should prepare the body for that stage. So slowly shifting nutrition to prep the body metabolically. So lower glycemic response and lower insulin release that will trigger fat burning in the body is really key at this stage. At this stage 0, people will need some kind of stepping stone, to help their bodies prepare for a better GLP-1 response when they go into the therapy. So, for example, lower glycemic carbohydrates from BENEO's portfolio, we have palatinose, has been shown to release the body's own GLP-1 in a longer lasting way compared to regular sugar, for example. And second meal studies have shown that this effect can be sustained for many hours after its consumption, even after you consume a meal. So this kind of ingredient really helps prime the body for a better GLP-1 response throughout the day, ensuring that people can stay satisfied and metabolically active before they start a GLP-1 therapy. Now, next to that, it's also a good idea to prepare the gut for a GLP-1 therapy because we know of all these side effects that come with the medication. So things like, prebiotic fiber, especially those from a natural source, like, for example, from BENEO's portfolio, we have inulin and oligofructose from chicory root. They are feeding the gut's own beneficial bacteria, so producing short-chain fatty acids that are beneficial not only for gut health, but also for things like your immune function, your hormonal health, and also weight management.
Nutrition is something that we in the industry talk about an awful lot, but consumers, and there's been a lot reported in the press, especially this week and this month in general, consumers are just more focused on the weight loss part of the journey. So what ingredients should manufacturers be looking at and talking to consumers about when it comes to supporting satiety, digestive comfort, nutrient density, especially when we're talking about that first year on GLP-1?
Yeah, absolutely. So during the first year of a GLP-1 therapy, we see that, reduced appetite is very present, radically smaller portions, a marked reduction in caloric intake, plus these digestive side effects, nausea, fatigue are very common when you start that therapy at the beginning. So it's ideal at this stage to prioritize proteins, especially plant-based proteins. They will be key to support muscle maintenance while the weight loss is starting. Prebiotic fibers like chicory root fibers will support digestive comfort during this stage. And like I mentioned before, microbiome balance, and at the same time, helping the consumer bridge the fiber gap. And when we think of other, food products like beverages, could be a very good idea during this stage, especially things that focus on hydration. And you can think of, using slow release carbs with electrolytes to make sure that the body maintains hydration. Other functional benefits during this stage: sustained energy to address the fatigue or mood, for example, with prebiotics through the gut-brain axis, can be especially important during this phase. Another ideal application during this phase would be something like a meal replacement. It can be ideal because you could combine in a meal replacement things like plant proteins with low glycemic carbohydrates, like platanos, for example, and prebiotic fibers to deliver maximum nutrition and also health benefits during this stage.
Again, this year we've seen a lot of research come out about consumers just not fully understanding what happens before, during, and especially after GLP-1. So what science-backed ingredients, because it's important that we do look at the science, are going to be the most effective for long-term maintenance and things like preserving lean mass and metabolic balance as well?
Yeah, absolutely. In the maintenance phase, the goal will shift from losing weight to sustaining your outcome, right? To maintaining the weight loss. And when you hit a maintenance dose of a GLP-1 medication, appetite might return and there's a high risk of weight regain. So in this phase, things like improving your body composition, preserving lean body mass, supporting your bone health, your muscle health, ensuring also nutrient absorption really remains key, because intake will still remain low, but with a special focus on this long-term weight management. How do you keep the weight off at a maintenance dose of a GLP-1 therapy? So things that have been researched in this field are prebiotic chicory root fibers. They have very nice data on supporting long-term weight management, also enhancing calcium absorption and addressing bone health concerns. And more importantly, we see more and more research in the last 20 years that has established the role of the gut microbiota in obesity. And we know today that very few prebiotic ingredients have the science to support their use as a tool, not only to release natural GLP-1, but also to improve body composition and support weight loss. So inulin and oligofructose are some of the few natural prebiotics with such quality data available and with proven health benefits, not only on weight loss, but reduction of fat mass, waist circumference, and BMI as well. So also at this stage, another important aspect is physical activity. It should start to become slowly part of the routine of a GLP-1 journey. So the use here of low glycemic carbohydrates like platanos will support sustained energy to be able to exercise, and also support natural GLP-1 release. And plant proteins, of course, combined with resistance training at this point, can help maintain muscle mass during this stage.
Okay, so we've explored from before, starting, during, and now we're looking at what happens, towards the end or transitioning completely off GLP-1s. Again, something that the consumers aren't necessarily that clued up on. So how can functional ingredients help to stabilize the appetite, prevent things like rebounds from happening when consumers do come off GLP-1 therapies?
Yeah, as individuals, reduce the dosage or stop therapy, again, we see this risk of rebound. So During this period, lifestyle support can be intensified to minimize that weight regain, maintaining those protein-rich patterns and aerobic and resistance training as well. So nutrition can help stabilize appetite and energy. So as individuals transition from the previous stage into the maintenance phase, it's an opportunity for them to reaffirm these structured nutrition patterns, plus adding more consistent physical exercise to ensure that they maintain the weight off. So again, a focus on plant proteins with resistant training remains important to help maintain muscle mass, and keeping up with the intake of prebiotic fibers, for example, chicory root fibers like inulin and oligofructose for that gut microbiota support and digestive regularity still remain important. And using smart carbohydrates, smart sugars, for example, like palatinose, can help the body manage blood sugar, not just after a meal, but even hours later. So we have clinical data that shows that palatinose has a second meal effect that results in a sustained release of GLP-1, ensuring that people can manage their appetite and not regain weight at this stage.
Okay. And how do you think brands can use a food first, natural ingredients approach to support consumers pursuing weight management, but without GLP-1 medication? So we're now completely moving away from GLP-1.
Yeah, this is a really important path because, it's most people that are, in this journey of natural weight loss. Even though we see advancements of new formats of the GLP-1 therapy, we see the pill instead of injections, less side effects, there is still a big part of the population that will choose to lose weight in a natural way. Or, a lot of people might not qualify for a GLP-1 therapy because they just want to lose a few pounds here and there. So for those people pursuing weight management without the medication, the general fundamentals of nutrition for weight management don't change. So we really recommend high protein, high fiber, hydration, nutrient-dense, smaller portions. These things should still remain. So this also opens up a lot of opportunities for brands out there who want to support these consumers. In terms of ingredients from BENEO's portfolio, I can give a few examples. For example, palatinose can offer an alternative to high glycemic carbohydrates, releasing natural GLP-1 in a longer lasting way, and also maintaining that effect even after a meal. So making sure that it helps the body manage blood sugar, not just after eating, but hours later. So you could think of pairing slow glycemic carbs like palatinose with whole grains, for example, from barley, that can also support short-term satiety and fullness. You can also pair that with things like prebiotic fibers from chicory root, inulin, or oligofructose that release also GLP-1 via fermentation, but also support those long-term weight management outcomes that we need by reducing calorie intake and improving body composition. And with the added benefits of its prebiotic effect, that it helps with calcium absorption and bone health, and also supports mood via the gut-brain axis. Those that are natural and proven, like inulin and oligofructose. You can also add plant proteins to the mix, like in a meal replacement, for example, or a supplement that will result in a very, very strong nutrition forward solution for people looking to manage their weight without a GLP-1 therapy.
You mentioned some buzzwords there: prebiotic fibers, mood, stress, mental resilience. What role can prebiotic fibers play in supporting those essential elements of the weight loss journey?
Yeah, this is a new element, and experts are bringing more and more attention to this topic of mood and stress. And we see that across all the stages that I mentioned today, from stage 0 until going off the medication or stopping, stress, mood, mental resilience will influence how well you will adhere to any weight management journey, whether you're on a medication or not. Because let's face it, no one likes to be in a caloric deficit or suffering from a GLP-1 therapy side effect. So next to this, we also know from consumer research the pressures of modern life that can lead to sleep deprivation, cognitive decline, and of course, stress. These are all topics that are being talked about by consumers, and we know that more and more people, especially younger generations, are looking for solutions to support their mood with food. And we know from research that the gut-brain axis is linking nutrition to emotional well-being. And prebiotic fibers from chicory root have been studied for their role in supporting mood and anxiety and also stress response. And the clinical data here shows very compelling results for chicory root fiber supplementation, with improvements in levels of anxiety and depression in 28 days. So it's very compelling data. So not only does it enhance the gut microbiome, but it can also enhance your mood, and it can be part of that toolbox to address any mental health issues, particularly in combination with lifestyle interventions.
Okay. Calorie deficit. Yeah, you're right. No, nobody wants to be in a calorie deficit. Just the phrase "hangry" comes to mind,
Yeah.
which is how I describe myself quite often. That's a lot of fascinating journey through, from stage 0 to coming off GLP-1 or not being on GLP-1 at all. Denisse, thank you so much for taking us through that GLP-1 journey with an alternative viewpoint. Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.